Is small businesses a good niche for freelance copywriters? Hey you, I'm Sarah Turner. I'm a freelance copywriter, copywriting mentor, and I get asked this question a lot. And I want to talk about it with you a little bit today. I think the reason I get asked this question a lot is because people tend to gravitate more towards small businesses, in part because large corporations have kind of gotten a bad rap in today's world. So I think the first thing to kind of ask yourself is why you're interested in working for small businesses. I mean, if you're interested in supporting a smaller group of people, a smaller team, who's, bootstrapping it, trying to make things work, that's really understandable, and I get it. It feels really good, right, to support that business. But I'm curious, is it a small business because it is small in revenue, or is it a small business because it is a small group of people that's actually working for that particular team? And the reason I think it's important to kind of ponder this question before we dig into why they might be a good fit for you, or why they might not be a good fit for you, is because it's important to understand why you're choosing something. For example, oftentimes people ask me, what is the most profitable niche? And it's because they are generally afraid of not picking the right niche to be successful in. When in fact, you can be successful in an incredible number of niches, especially those that are not making the list of like most profitable niches, right? And that's often rooted in a scarcity belief, or the belief that there isn't enough to go around, or if that you pick the right or wrong niche, it will make or break you, when in reality, that's not true. And it's more important to kind of push back on the actual underlying belief. So if you are interested in writing for small businesses, that is not right or wrong, but ask yourself why. Is it because you think big corporations are doing bad things? Is it because of some money mindset things that you've got going on? So try and figure out why it is you want to support small businesses in the first place. And then I want to give you some other things to kind of think through as you're picking small businesses. First things first, small businesses is a massive niche, and it includes an incredible amount of different types. So I would actually encourage you to still pick something within that, some sort of focus. It could be real estate or health and wellness or e-commerce. You're still narrowing down your focus quite a bit. Now, you might actually choose based on location. I've had quite a few students who have chosen small businesses in their particular region, but it's important to remember that you're not limited by that. So don't limit yourself in today's digital world, which really makes so many opportunities accessible to you. But if that's still what you want to do, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, there are some advantages to it. First and foremost being, if you make SEO a part of your strategy, you're going to be able to use location-specific keywords, and that is going to give you a leg up. Quite frankly, it's generally easier to get in front of people when you're putting things in like, hair salon in Santa Monica, California, or something like that, especially if the small businesses have brick and mortar locations, meaning you actually need to go to them physically and they're not in the digital space. So that can be something that gives you a leg up. It still will open you up to a lot of different opportunities because you can start in your city, you can go regionally, you can go further and kind of radiate outwards. So maybe you chose small businesses because you feel really good about supporting a smaller group of people, and now you know that you have this incredible advantage if you're using SEO. Now, there are some cons to working with small businesses, but again, keep in mind there are lots of different kinds of small businesses, so there are nuances to even what we're about to discuss. First and foremost being, as I mentioned before, figuring out what you mean by small businesses is important, because according to the United States Small Business Administration, a small business includes any business that has 1,500 employees or fewer. That is pretty big in my opinion. So again, it's really important. Ask yourself, why is it you're drawn to small businesses? Do you mean mom and pop shops, family owned operated businesses? Do you mean solo entrepreneurs? Maybe you're really interested in supporting women who have digital online businesses. Maybe you're really interested in startups. Whatever it is, get more specific here, because quite frankly, small businesses can mean a lot of things. And maybe you meant according to its revenue, right? So maybe you were thinking that you wanted to pick small businesses because you're kind of thinking like the antithesis of Amazon or Google or something like that. But small businesses actually don't always have small revenue. So again, this is why I want you kind of thinking about things like this. In fact, according to the United States Small Business Administration, a small business can have a revenue of up to $38.5 million. So that's a pretty impactful business. In fact, most businesses don't make it past the $10 million mark. So again, Sometimes we think that by picking small businesses, it's a virtuous choice, right? We think it's going to be more grounded in our values, but in reality, it might not necessarily mean what you think it means. And that's why I kind of wanted to have this conversation with you today. Because the other thing I want you to keep in mind is ultra small businesses, maybe the ones you're thinking of, the mom and pop shop, can be really difficult to work with. Solo entrepreneurs, mom and pop shops, small businesses that really only have a few people and not a lot of revenue generally don't have a decent budget for marketing. And more importantly, they might not have the budget set aside for a copywriter like yourself. Now, this isn't always the case. Keep in mind there are some really small and mighty businesses out there. But I just don't want you to limit yourself. I want you to think about all of these different elements as you're picking your small business niche. Sometimes when you reach out to a small business, like a very small business, they're really trying to DIY everything themselves. And in my experience, oftentimes you have to do a lot of work to explain the value of a copywriter and sometimes even the value of marketing, which in today's day and age, you would think you wouldn't have to, but it's been my experience and it's been the experience of many of my students. So at the very least, if you are going to choose small businesses, I want to give you some tips. First and foremost, make sure they have a website. That might feel obvious to you, but I can't tell you the number of people who have asked me, should I reach out to businesses that don't have a website and recommend that they start a website? And that might feel helpful and a great place to start, but quite frankly, you're kind of creating a lot more work for yourself. When in reality, there are millions, hundreds of millions of businesses online that at least understand the importance of a website. So please skip those businesses and don't go for the ones that are going to create a lot of heartache for you right out the gate. The other thing to look for is if they're actively trying to bring on new customers. How might you be able to tell if that's the case? 1, they have an email list. 2, they have an opt-in, something that pops up that you put your email address into when you're first on their website. But they don't have to have that, right? They could also have a social media presence. They could be actively posting. They could be actively posting blogs. They could have deals on Groupons or participating in other sort of strategies to kind of bring in new clientele. They could be running Facebook and Instagram ads. They could be doing outreach or cold calling or cold emailing. All of these are indications they're actively trying to grow their business. And that is a much better sign that they might be a client that you would want to work with. Listen, I have a soft place in my heart for small businesses. I love working with individual doctors' practices. Those are small businesses. They're really, really small and they're limited by time. But I love working with them because they have such a profound impact on the health of their patients. Because usually they're working with people who have chronic illness and therefore they have to spend more time with them. They have a more comprehensive, treatment protocol and a lot more goes into it. And oftentimes they fall outside of the insurance policies and so they're not getting leads from insurance companies, which is how most doctors' practices gain leads. Now, this is also a great opportunity for me as a copywriter because they have to rely on marketing to grow and maintain their practice. But this is true for nearly all businesses. But the thing is not every business owner is aware of the importance of marketing. So make sure that you are doing your homework when you're doing client outreach and you're really not wasting your time with people who don't understand the importance of marketing or who aren't actively investing in marketing. You're going to save yourself a lot of time, energy, and heartache when you reach out to people who actually will want to work with you and use your services. So that was a lot of food for thought. Again, start at the beginning. Why do you want to work with small businesses? And then make sure that you reach out and are working with people who kind of already understand the value of what you bring to the table as a copywriter. That's going to be a much better place to start than working with somebody who just isn't quite there in their business yet. The other thing to keep in mind is sometimes I remind copywriters, especially newbie copywriters who are first starting out, that sometimes you want to keep yourself in check and make sure that you're not going after small businesses because you think that's kind of the only people that you are worthy of writing for at this point in your career. If you are actively studying copywriting and you are working your butt off to get better at your craft and you're getting feedback, and you're just doing your best, I want to encourage you to go for bigger fish. And you'll be able to find big fish even within the small business niche. This is a generalization, but more often than not, those clients are easier to work with. They understand the value of your work. They're going to pay you on time, and they're going to understand why you charge what you charge. So I know that you're probably here because you have a big heart and you really want to give back to your clients. I totally get that. But another thing to take into consideration is that sometimes you want to have some clients that pay the bills and some clients that are where you put all your heart because you're super passionate about what they do. For me, again, I mostly focus on writing for practices, and that is not a group of people who have a ton of budget for marketing. So sometimes I would take on some e-commerce brands in the health and wellness space, people that I believed in what they were doing, I was excited about their products, but they have such a greater need for copy than somebody who has a small practice. And so those were some of my clients that I got some of my biggest retainers, but I still found the most joy in working for my smaller doctor clients. So you can do a little bit of both. And I also love to remind people that if you really want to give back, you can always offer your services as a donation to any nonprofits or anything like that. If you think about it, it's a much more potent donation than actual money itself, because you can write something that will generate donations for years to come. And that is also another wonderful, very fulfilling and meaningful way of using your skills. So I hope this helps. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button if it did. Don't forget to subscribe. And please, I love hearing from you in the comments. And till next time.